Why is it that the person we love most is often the person we become addicted to? Is that love, or is it something else wearing love's face? Ask yourself honestly, why do you stay in a relationship that hurts you? You know you're not happy. You can feel it draining everything out of you. Somewhere underneath, you already know this person isn't going to change, and you're still there. You've tried to leave. You've promised yourself this time it's different. This time I'm actually done. Every single time something pulls you back. Why? Here's the thing almost nobody says clearly. The answer isn't in them. It isn't that they manipulated you so skillfully you never stood a chance. It isn't that you love them too much, that things were good once and might be good again. The real answer is that this relationship activated something inside you that you've never fully looked at and then kept reinforcing it over and over. Unmet needs, old wounds, and the fear of ending up alone. Toxic relationships aren't just a story about fights and lies and betrayal. They're a story about patterns running underneath you that you can't see from the inside. Childhood injuries that never healed, a restless hunger for attention, a habit of needing someone else to confirm you're okay. You're not stuck on a person. You're bonded to a feeling that person keeps giving you, inconsistently, unpredictably, just often enough. And that's why simply ending it isn't enough. You can walk away physically and still be carrying the thing that walks you back. The good memories, the excuses you make for the bad ones. That one question that never quite goes away. Should I try one more time? Before we go further, I want to be clear about something. This video is not here to shame you, not here to suggest you're weak, or that you lack courage, or that you should have seen this sooner. The exact opposite. If you're in this, it's usually because you're the kind of person who commits, who takes responsibility, who keeps trying to fix things. Those aren't flaws. They were simply pointed at someone who used them. This is here to give you understanding, because when you can finally see the mechanism clearly, control comes back to you, and control is what you need before you can leave. One important note before we begin. Everything here applies to emotional and psychological harm. If there is physical violence in your relationship, or if you're afraid of what this person might do, please don't use this video as your only plan. Leaving is statistically the most dangerous period in an abusive relationship, and it needs a real safety plan made with people who do this professionally. Helpline for your country in the description, please use it. There's no bravery in doing this alone. Now, let's start at the beginning. Every human being arrives here with a deep need for connection and belonging, and from infancy, the brain links safety and well-being to the way love was delivered to us. If you grew up with love that was steady, warm, and reliable, you learned that relationships can be trusted, and love is a safe place to stand. If love came to you incomplete, sometimes close, sometimes pushing away, warmth and coldness mixed together, your brain learned something very different. That love is hard to get. That love is fragile. You have to fight for it and earn it by proving yourself. And that's where the difficulty actually begins. Because if love and pain arrived together early enough, a pattern got installed, and that pattern is still quietly steering your choices today. So when someone treats you consistently well, steady, calm thing happens. It can feel fake or boring or too good. Not because it is, because it doesn't match the template your brain recognizes as love. But when someone gives you affection sometimes and coldness other times, your nervous system lights up immediately. Yes, this is what love feels like. And you're caught, not by the person, but by the feeling they produce in you, a familiar old feeling you've felt before. And an unspoken project begins underneath everything. This time I'll get it right. This time I'll be enough. This time I'll turn the rejection into acceptance. That project is decades old. It has nothing to do with them, and it's the reason leaving feels impossible. When your attachment is built on uncertainty, the thought of losing that person becomes unbearable. Not because you can't survive without them, but because their leaving means the unfinished part of you goes back to being alone with itself. There's a story running quietly in the background. I have to fix this. I have to prove I'm worthy of it. Maybe if I just try harder, they'll finally give me the thing I've always wanted. Here's the truth. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. This relationship is not a test of whether you deserve love. The problem is not inside you, and the solution is not inside them. Now we get to the real reason you can't leave, Because there's a mechanism at work here that functions almost exactly like addiction, where even the pain starts to feel like part of the reward. Think about how many times this has happened. The relationship hurts you badly. Suddenly, one day everything is beautiful again. They become exactly the person you always wanted. And that moment feels so significant that you reinterpret everything through it. Hope floods back. Maybe it's changing. So you decide those few good moments are the real relationship, and all the suffering is just an obstacle to get past. That isn't love, that's a conditioning cycle. And the thing keeping it alive has a name: intermittent reinforcement. The psychologist B.F. Skinner demonstrated this decades ago. When a reward comes unpredictably, sometimes yes, sometimes no discernible pattern, the behavior attached to it becomes dramatically harder to extinguish. In his experiments, an animal that received food every single time it pressed a lever pressed at a relaxed, moderate rate. But when the food arrived only sometimes, at random, the pressing became relentless. Because now the next press might be the one. Now replace the animal with a person and the lever with a relationship. If they treated you badly every time, you'd have left long ago. Nobody stays for consistent cruelty. But they don't do that. Every so often, randomly, for no particular reason, you get warmth, affection, a glimpse of the person you first met, and hope rebuilds itself instantly. And here's the part that should genuinely alarm you. This system slowly lowers what you'll accept. At the start, you wanted respect, equality, commitment, but after enough cycles, your definition has quietly been rewritten, and now a relatively calm week feels like happiness. Now not being criticized feels like being loved. You've been trained down, and you didn't notice. It happened one small concession at a time. So you tell yourself, maybe if I handle it better, maybe if I'm more patient, maybe if I change something about myself, they'll go back to how they were at the beginning. Let me be careful here. This next part matters. I'm not going to tell you every difficult partner is running a deliberate strategy. Many people who do this are repeating patterns from their own history without a plan and without full awareness. Some are conscious of it, most aren't. But the effect on you is identical either way. Whether the harm is calculated or unconscious, you're still the one absorbing it, and that means your decision to protect yourself doesn't require you to first determine their intentions. You don't need to know whether they meant it. You only need to know what it's doing to you. And if you've ever asked yourself, am I going crazy? Am I overthinking this? Am I imagining all of it? I need you to hear something. You're not imagining it. Those questions don't appear from nowhere. They're the predictable result of a specific pattern. Gaslighting is when someone repeatedly casts doubt on your feelings, your memory, and eventually your grip on reality, until you're no longer sure what you actually experienced. Why would anyone do that? A person who can't trust their own perception becomes dependent on someone else's. And that dependence is the point. Here's how it plays out. You notice something, a lie, a contradiction, behavior that doesn't add up, and you raise it. And what comes back is, you're blowing this out of proportion. You're too sensitive. That never happened. You're imagining things. You find a problem in everything. Slowly, this builds scaffolding inside your head. Now you second-guess your own reactions before you even voice them. You go back through old messages, hunting for evidence. You replay conversations, trying to establish what was real. And with every argument, the truth gets blurrier. Things that once seemed obvious have become uncertain. That's how you get separated from your own reality and handed someone else's. Projection is the companion mechanism, where their behavior gets relocated onto you. They lie and tell you that you can't be trusted. They betray and accuse you of betrayal. They're volatile and explain that you provoke it. Everything gets inverted, and gradually you begin carrying guilt that was never yours to hold. That's the actual cruelty of it. Not the arguments, but the slow separation of a person from their own identity, and then making them dependent on the one who took it. If you've lived this, you're not unstable, you're not overreacting, you're not the problem. You've been inside a sustained psychological process, and the fact that you can now see it is the beginning of getting out. So if you can see all of this, why are you still here? Two reasons: the fear of being alone and the belief that love will eventually change them. Take the loneliness first. We're taught from childhood that being alone is a failure state. Every film, every song, every post insists your life is incomplete until somebody chooses you. That being single means something must be wrong with you. Now put that on top of a relationship that has already damaged your confidence, where you've been told repeatedly that nobody else would understand you, that nobody else would tolerate you, only I accept you as you are. And your mind concludes, maybe this is what I'm worth. So you settle, it's manageable, at least there's someone. But here's what's actually true. You don't have to break yourself to be loved. You don't have to erase yourself to be accepted. Being alone can hurt, but being alone is also where healing starts. And staying in something false has a cost that compounds every year you pay it. And one thing worth saying plainly, leaving does not mean being alone forever. It means being alone for a while on your own terms, while you rebuild, a completely different experience from the loneliness you feel inside this relationship right now. Because that's the part nobody names. The loneliest place isn't an empty apartment. It's sitting next to someone who makes you feel invisible. Remember the beginning when they seemed perfect, when everything had a kind of magic to it, when you thought this is the one. You're still looking for that person, but that person is now a memory, and you're in a relationship with the memory rather than the reality. If I just hold on a bit longer, if I handle it more wisely, maybe it goes back to how it was. That's the trap. You're not in love, inside the illusion of change, bonded to the unusually sweet moments that reliably arrive right after the painful ones, timed almost perfectly to make you stay. Real change happens when a person decides internally that they want to change and then does the sustained, unglamorous work of changing, usually with professional help. It does not happen because you love them hard enough. It does not happen because you erased yourself enough. So ask yourself directly, how many times have they promised to change? How many times have there been explanations? How many times have you believed this time it's real? The outcome has been identical every time. You already have your answer. You've had it for a while. Now, leaving a relationship like this isn't a rational decision, and treating it like one is why people fail at it. You can fully understand that something is destroying you and still be unable to walk out, because this was never only love. It was an emotional dependency, and every small dose of affection reinforced it. So getting out works more like a detox than a decision. No contact, no messages, no calls, no staying friends, no one last conversation. Every recontact drops you straight back into the same spiral, the same confusion, the same hope, the same cost. But what if they change? If they were going to understand, they'd have understood by now. You've given them the information repeatedly. But I need closure? Closure doesn't come from them. Closure isn't an answer they provide, and waiting for it is usually just a permitted reason to stay in contact. Two exceptions, because I don't want to give you advice that doesn't fit your life. If you share children, no contact isn't possible. What you need instead is structured, minimal, practical-only communication, ideally in writing, with a family lawyer or mediator to help set it up. And if you're afraid of how they'll react to being cut off, do not go no contact without talking to a domestic violence advocate first. Silence can escalate things. Get help building the plan. And expect withdrawal. The first stretch will feel hollow. Your mind will go searching for the person it had wired itself around. That feeling is not proof you should go back. That's withdrawal, and it's temporary even though it doesn't feel temporary. Your brain will also start feeding you a highlight reel. The good conversations, the laughter, the warm moments. That's the most dangerous part of the whole process, because it's selective. The bad times were equally real, and they're what brought you here. So write down what happened specifically in your own words while it's clear, and read it back on the nights when your memory starts softening the story, because it will. Rebuild a routine, move your body, feed your mind something, put time around people who make you feel like yourself. Ask yourself who you were before this. What did you enjoy? What did you give up to keep someone else comfortable? And when that voice shows up telling you you're not enough, pause and ask whose voice that actually is, because it isn't yours, installed, and you can uninstall it. And please consider professional support. I want to be honest about the limits of a video. What you're recovering from is real psychological injury. Trauma-informed therapist will do more for you in a few months than any video will. This isn't a substitute for that, it's a starting point. Maybe you still believe you love them. But consider the possibility that what you're feeling is attachment to something that was never really offered to you. Attachment to attention that came in fragments, to a promise that was never kept, to hope that broke repeatedly and that you rebuilt every time. That isn't love. It's a psychological trap that costs you a little more of yourself each day until living inside the damage becomes normal. And it can end. Not tonight necessarily, not perfectly, but it can end. And the fact that you watched this far means part of you already knows that. If any of this landed, write one word in the comments: seen. Not for the algorithm, but because someone else scrolling this comment section at 2 a.m. needs to know they're not the only one. And your one word might be what convinces them. And if you're in it right now, the helpline for your country is in the description. Please use it. Understanding is the first step, but you shouldn't have to take the rest of them alone. You're not crazy. You're not weak. You're not too much. You've just been inside something that was designed, deliberately or not, to make you doubt all three.